Something shifted. Maybe you felt it before you had the words for it. Maybe it didn't happen all at once. It never does it? It was more like one morning you woke up and something inside you was just done. Done shrinking, done apologizing for taking up space, done making yourself easier to digest for people who never appreciated the full meal anyway. And I know that sounds small when I say it like that, but you know exactly what I mean. And the people around you? They felt it. Oh, they felt it, but not the way you were hoping, not with celebration, not with relief. They got quiet. Some of them got distant. Some of them got angry in that particular way. People get angry when they realize they can no longer predict you. And you've been sitting with that, sitting with this strange mix of freedom and grief because you finally showed up as yourself and the room changed. So you started wondering, did I go too far? Did I show too much? Did I do something wrong? I need you to stay with me right here because this message is not for everyone. No. This is specifically, intentionally, only for the ones who finally stopped performing. The ones who let themselves be seen, really seen, and then watched people they loved take a step back. If that's you, you're in the right place. You were meant to find this today because what just happened to you was not rejection, it was revelation. And those two things can feel identical in your chest, but they are not even close to the same thing. Not even close. By the time we finish this together, you will never confuse them again. For so long, you were the easy one. You know what I mean by that? You were the one people didn't have to worry about. The one who figured it out. The one who adjusted. If the room needed calm, you brought calm. If someone needed space, you made yourself smaller to give it to them. If there was tension, you were the one who smoothed it over before it became something nobody wanted to deal with. And you did it so naturally, so automatically that after a while you stopped noticing you were doing it at all. You softened your voice in rooms where your real voice would have been too much. You laughed off things that genuinely hurt you because making it a whole thing felt selfish. You swallowed opinions that were valid, that were true, that deserved to be said because the timing never felt right or the person didn't seem like they could handle it or you just didn't want to be that person, the difficult one, the demanding one, and you called it being easygoing. You called it being mature. You called it being the bigger person, but something in you, something quiet and persistent and honest, always knew that wasn't the real you. That was the version of you that kept the peace by losing yourself, piece by piece. So slowly you almost didn't notice what was gone. And here is the part that nobody talks about, the people around you. They got comfortable with that version. Real comfortable. They built their whole understanding of you around the you that didn't push back, the you that absorbed tension and never let it overflow, the you that could be counted on to make it okay, to make it easy, to make it work. No matter what it cost you personally, they made plans around your silence. They said things they would never say to someone who pushed back because they knew you wouldn't. They leaned into your patience like it was an unlimited resource. And in a way, you let them because you thought that's what love looked like. That's what being good looked like. So when you stopped, when something in you finally said enough, not in a dramatic way, not necessarily with a confrontation or a speech, just a quiet, firm, internal enough. They didn't see someone coming into their power. They didn't see healing. They didn't see growth. They saw a threat because the version of you they needed, the agreeable one, the available one, the one who made their lives easier by making yours smaller. That version started disappearing, and they don't know what to do with what replaced it. But I need you to hear this. Right now, right here, at the beginning of what I'm sharing with you today, the discomfort they are feeling is not yours to fix. It is not a sign that you went too far. It is not evidence that you were wrong to change. That discomfort, that is your frequency, your actual, real, full volume frequency, finally rising to the surface after years of being held underwater. And not everyone was built to receive that. Not everyone who walked into your life was meant to walk through every chapter of it. Some people were given access to the quieter version of you, the managed version. And when the real thing showed up, the contract ended. Not because of failure, because of completion. You didn't lose those people. You outgrew the dynamic that kept you both comfortable at your expense. And that is not something to grieve. That is something to understand. Because once you understand it, really understand it, everything that has felt like loss starts to look completely different. There is something happening in the invisible space around you that most people never get told. And I mean never. Because the people who could tell you this, they usually don't. It doesn't make for easy conversation. It doesn't fit neatly into what we're supposed to say to each other. But I'm going to tell you anyway. When you carry a version of yourself that is smaller than your truth, you don't just feel uncomfortable, you actually send out a signal, a frequency. And that frequency attracts people and situations and dynamics that depend on you staying exactly that size. Not because those people are evil, not all of them, but because your smallness was useful to them. Your silence made room for their voice. Your uncertainty made them feel certain. Your constant adjusting, your constant accommodating, your constant making it work, that became the foundation that other people built their confidence on. And you didn't know that. You thought you were just being kind, being flexible, being the person who doesn't make things difficult. But the moment your energy started expanding, the moment the real you started taking up the space it always deserved, those dynamics couldn't hold. They were never designed to hold the full version of you. So they started cracking, and it looked like people leaving. It looked like tension appearing out of nowhere. It looked like you did something wrong, said something wrong, became something wrong. You didn't. You just outgrew the container. And that's not a failure. That is the most natural thing in the world. You cannot fault the river for outgrowing the banks that were always too narrow. Now, I want to say something about the way you've been carrying yourself lately, because I keep coming back to this. There is a stillness in you now that wasn't there before. I mean, a real stillness, not the stillness of someone who gave up and went quiet. Not the stillness of defeat. This is something different. This is the stillness of someone who finally stopped waiting for permission to be who they already are. And people feel that. They feel it even when they can't name it. Even when they're smiling at you and pretending nothing changed. Even then, something in them knows. Something in them registers that you are no longer available to be managed. And especially the ones who used to rely on your uncertainty to feel certain about themselves. Those are the ones who feel it most. Because your doubt was their compass. And now the compass is gone. So they don't know what to do with you. And here is the part I need you to really sit with, because this is where it gets tender. They cannot look at you the same way because you are not the same. And I know part of you grieves that. I know there is something soft in you that was hoping this would go differently, that wanted the people who knew the old you the smaller you, the quieter you, to look at who you're becoming and say, we always knew you had this in you. We are so proud of you. But sometimes, and this is one of the loneliest truths I know, sometimes the people who needed you hidden are the last ones who can celebrate you being found. Because your rising asks something of them they are not ready to give. That doesn't make them monsters, it just makes them human, and it still hurts. It is allowed to hurt, but it does not mean you were wrong to rise. Here is what I'm sensing about the past few months of your life. And I want you to really sit with this because I don't think you have given yourself credit for what actually happened. Something cracked open, not dramatically, not with a big announcement or a breakdown that everyone witnessed. It was quieter than that, more private than that. Maybe it was one conversation too many where you sat there and smiled and nodded and swallowed everything you actually meant to say. Maybe it was a moment, just a single moment, where you looked at yourself in the mirror and something behind your own eyes said, no more. Not with anger, not with bitterness. It wasn't a fight. It was more like a decision that came from somewhere so deep inside you that it didn't need to be spoken out loud to be real. A door closed gently, permanently, and from that moment forward, the mask just stopped fitting. Like it literally could not stay on anymore. Like something in you finally refused to hold it in place. And here is what I find so extraordinary about that. You didn't plan it. You didn't read a book about boundaries or follow a program or decide one morning that today was the day. It just happened because you were ready, even if you didn't know you were ready, even if it scared you when it started. You started saying things you actually meant, small things at first, then bigger things. You stopped over-explaining your choices to people who had already made up their minds about you anyway. You stopped arriving places as the smaller version of yourself, the manageable version, the one that fit neatly into what everyone else needed you to be. You just started being quietly, without a grand entrance. And I need you to understand something about that. What you did, that quiet becoming that, is one of the most powerful spiritual acts a human being can perform. I mean that. Because the universe, whatever you want to call that force that holds everything together, it does not respond to performance. It never did. It responds to truth. And for the first time in a long time, maybe the first time ever, you started telling it the truth about who you are. And it heard you. It is still hearing you. Now, I want to talk about something that might be tender for you. The things you were told were your weaknesses. That sensitivity, the way you feel things so deeply that sometimes it lives in your body before it reaches your brain. You were probably told that was too much, that you were too emotional, too intense, too reactive. But that sensitivity, that is your gift for reading rooms that others walk into blind. That is your ability to feel what people are carrying before they say a single word. That is how you have always known things before you could explain how you knew them. That silence you kept. The way you would go quiet when others would argue or perform or demand to be heard. You were probably told that was weakness, that you needed to speak up, speak louder. But that silence was never emptiness. That was you listening to something deeper than the noise in the room. Something most people never slow down enough to hear. And that gentleness, the way you lead with softness even when the world has not been soft with you. People try to use that against you, try to read it as naivety, as an opening. But here is what they missed entirely. That gentleness was never weakness pretending to be kind. That was strength, choosing to be kind, on purpose, knowing full well what it cost. And now that strength is no longer choosing to hide, that changes everything. I have to be honest with you about what comes next. And I need you to really hear this part because it is the part nobody warns you about. The shift you made, the unmasking, the becoming. It does not end the tension, not right away. In fact, for a little while, it might feel like things got harder before they got easier. And that can be confusing because you did the brave thing. You finally showed up as yourself. So why does it still feel like a storm? Here's why. Because not everyone in your life was ready for the real you. And some of them are about to come back. Not because they grew, not because they did the work, not because they sat with themselves in the quiet and realized they owe you something. No, they are coming back because they felt the shift in your energy from wherever they are. They noticed the light you are carrying now and something in them is drawn to it. The way people are always drawn to warmth when they've been standing in the cold. And you will feel it. You will feel the pull because you are someone who loves deeply. Someone who forgives before they are even asked. Someone whose first instinct is always to open the door a little wider. And that is one of the most beautiful things about you. I mean that. But right now in this season, that instinct needs a gatekeeper. Because not everyone who returns deserves full access to the new you. Not all of them. And you are allowed to know the difference. Your energy right now is not something to be given away freely anymore. I need you to understand what you have actually been through. This was not a small thing. This was a refinement, a real one. The kind that costs something, the kind that leaves marks. And what came out on the other side of that process? It is sacred. It deserves to be treated that way. By you first. Protect it the way you would protect something that took everything you had to build. Because it did. It took everything, every hard conversation you didn't run from. Every night you sat with discomfort instead of numbing it. Every moment you chose truth over comfort. That is what built this version of you. So let people earn your presence now. Let them meet you where you actually are. Not where you used to be. Not where they are comfortable. Not where it is convenient for them. Where you are. That is the standard now. And it is not too much to ask. It is not too much. It is simply the truth of what you are worth. And I want you to know something else. Something that I feel very strongly sitting here with you right now. The ancestors who carried the same spirit you carry. The ones who were also too much for the rooms they were put in. The ones who were also told to quiet down, to be less, to make themselves manageable. They are watching this. They are watching you and they are proud. So proud. You are not doing something new. You are completing something ancient. A lineage of people who refused to disappear. Who kept showing up as themselves even when the world made it costly. And you come from that. That lives in you. It always has. And the universe, it has been building a protection around you this entire time, even in the seasons when it didn't feel like it. Even when it felt like you were completely exposed and completely alone, the very people who tried to dim you. And you know exactly who I mean. They have been unknowingly standing guard around your purpose. Because that is what darkness does. It circles light. It cannot help itself. And nothing circles something that isn't worth protecting. You are worth protecting. You always were. There is a reason this had to happen now. Not last year when you were still too tangled up in who they needed you to be. Not 5 years from now, when the moment will have passed. Now, this specific season, this specific version of you, the one who just went through everything you went through and came out still standing, still soft, still open, that is not an accident. That is not random. The universe does not waste its timing. Ever. The world you are stepping into, and I mean the actual next chapter of your life, not the one you've been rehearsing, the real one. It needs you. unfiltered. It needs the version of you that feels things deeply and doesn't apologize for it. The one that sees through people not with cynicism but with clarity. The one that loves without disappearing into that love, that version. The actual you, not the managed you, not the palatable you, not the you that was carefully edited for other people's comfort. That you is done, and something so much realer has taken its place. And I need you to hear this next part. Really hear it. Not just let it pass through. I need you to let it land. You did not do anything wrong. You did not betray anyone by finally refusing to betray yourself. The guilt you have been quietly carrying about the friendships that shifted, about the family dynamics that got complicated, about the rooms that went cold when you started taking up your actual space. Set it down right now, not later, now. Set it down like something you have been gripping so long you forgot you were even holding it. You do not owe anyone an apology for arriving, for finally, after everything, arriving. The relationships that couldn't survive your becoming were not built on the real you to begin with. You understand that now, even if it still hurts. And it is okay that it still hurts. Grief and growth live right next to each other. You can feel both at the same time and still keep moving. The mask is off. And what is underneath it? What has always been underneath it is extraordinary. Not extraordinary in the way that's loud or decorated or needs a stage. Extraordinary in the quieter, deeper way. The way that truth is always extraordinary when it finally surfaces. The way that something real, something that was buried and doubted and quieted and talked over and dimmed and still came through. That is extraordinary. That is rare. That is you. That has always been you. Even when you couldn't see it, even when nobody else could see it, it was always there, waiting. So walk into whatever comes next carrying that not as armor, not as a performance, just as knowing. A quiet, unshakable knowing of who you actually are. Let them feel the real you. Let them be uncomfortable with it if that's what they need. Let them look away. Let them adjust or let them go. Because you are not living for their comfort anymore. You tried that. For a long time you tried that, and it cost you more than anyone ever saw. You are living from your truth now, from the inside out, and that right there is the most beautiful transformation I have witnessed in a very long time. I am so proud of you. I mean that in the deepest way I know how to mean anything. I love you. Now go be everything you actually are. All of it, every single part.